Episode 31.
We back. We are back. We are back. If you say it enough times, it just sticks. But yes, episode number 31. We are back. After
We are back.
2-week hiatus.
Yes.
When you get to this level of success, you travel a lot.
Yeah, we're doing live shows now. So if you haven't been part of that whole process, then where have you been, for one? And why do you hate us?
Yeah, we come to a lot of cities, and if you're not buying tickets, you're not having a good time on the weekend. So we'll be in a city near you here sooner than later. But no, not really. We have not been traveling for the podcast. We have been traveling a lot, though. But we do have some pretty cool stuff happening with the podcast that we'll get into later. But right now, it is Saturday. It's a beautiful day outside.
Mm-hmm.
We have not made any solid plans yet outside of going to a book opening for a friend here later today. And it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a great day. Walking with positive vibes.
It's going to be a hot day.
How hot's it going to be?
Warm, I think, in like the mid to upper 90s.
You know that statistically, crime goes up when it gets hotter?
Is that just because people feel like less energy to want to do something about it if they get robbed?
What? No, not the reaction to crime doesn't necessarily change, but crime in terms of someone
That's what I'm
deciding
saying.
to...
Like,
what are you saying?
Does crime go up because people are more sluggish, like during summertime? Like they're less willing to be like, I don't want to freaking chase that dude down the street. They just feel naturally like depleted because it's so hot. And then crime people are like, yo, now's the time to strike.
I think crime goes up because people are perpetually uncomfortable, and you're more likely to make a stupid decision when you're uncomfortable versus when you're really comfortable. And they're frustrated. If you're walking in the heat for 3 hours, you're frustrated. You're sweaty. You don't feel good. You're burning up. All you want is some air conditioning. And someone walks up on you and they say something wrong, and you're like, today's not the day. And you decide to attack them, and you look around and you go, I'm in Florida. Look at this.
And it only happens in Florida, not Texas.
Florida is like the really good athlete of the U.S. that also has a very troubled pass and decision-making process. Florida is like the child that did really good in school, but also liked to go do really bad things on the weekend. Because you start a business in Florida, move down there. It's the cheap houses. You know, I remember my brother was like, these ones are the crazy expensive ones. These ones are $400,000. I was like, that's crazy expensive. That's how much it costs in Texas to have a 1-bedroom home. I mean, like a shotgun house
that needs renovation. Yeah,
$400,000. But also in Florida, where it gets the hottest, if you can imagine, people are committing crimes with alligators. They're committing crimes on alligators. They're just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I've never seen more crazy stories come out of Florida than I have any other state. And I will say, for a state that I'm like gung-ho on because they're very U.S. supportive, they really believe in the Second Amendment. They really believe in making sure everyone has their rights and protecting those. But gosh dang, would I want to live there? Absolutely not.
Yeah, it would definitely be different, especially if you're not born in Florida and you move there. Because like historically, I mean, for the past, I feel like almost 5 to 10 years now, vacation's been strictly in Florida. Like that's the vacation we both look forward to every single year. So going from that dichotomy of knowing Florida is the vacation spot to actually moving there and realizing it's, maybe a vacation spot, but now it's where I live. And that whole mental shift that would have to take place, I feel like would be not fun. Because realizing like, oh, I can't just do whatever I want while I'm here. I actually have to work. I don't know.
It's anything inland Florida from the beach is just not as great as the beach. It really gets hotter and crappier as you go inside Florida. It's just to be in Florida and live at a place where there's a beach only in like 3 hours in each direction, like you actually have to drive to get to the beach, I think would be the biggest slap in the face. You have to deal with all of that heat, all of that craziness, and you don't even get to have the beach as a natural outlet to go look at and be like, oh, here's a saving grace.
Yeah.
You want to hear some crazy stories that come out of Florida in the past 6 months?
I do. Tell me.
Number 1, man breaks into stranger's house, lives there to avoid angry wife. Not that bad. I get it. Hey, trying to get out of there.
Hey.
Here's a good one. 70-year-old urinates on $10,000 worth of Sam's Club's food, then lounges on patio furniture.
Heck yeah, brother.
Get out there and just, hey, exercising your rights.
Do your thing.
Aggressive feral duck terrorizes Cape Coral neighborhood. A Muscovy duck has been chasing and attacking residents, including seniors, who is 90% of Florida's population. In Cape Coral, the bird, protected under federal law, has sparked community alarm. Okay. Headless, tailless alligator found floating in Cape Coral Canal. That was probably another alligator that did that.
Yeah, I would like to see pictures. Was it strategically cut off or was it just mangled?
Beachgoers warned about mating manatees. Okay, that's not the craziest flavors that could come out of Florida, but the fact that a guy peeing on $10,000 worth of Sam's Club food is just like a regular story gives you an idea of where crazy actually exists on that spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's pretty wild. I think we just found some plans for this Saturday.
I hope there's a Sam's Club within 10 miles of myself, because I'm going to go exercise my rights and get on that patio furniture.
$10 bottomless mimosas at one of the local spots and paying a visit to Sam's Club.
We're taking the party to Sam's Club, guys. Anyone coming with us? Try to set some records.
Might even sign up for a membership after the fact, too.
Right? This is going to be my store after this. You know what I did this morning?
What'd you do?
I made my coffee in a French press.
Ooh, dude, I like a good French press.
It's nice. It makes me feel like I'm camping. But I'm not. I'm at my apartment.
It's true. How long do you let your grinds sit in the water before you do the press?
I looked it up on ChatGPT and it said 4 minutes.
Yep. Typically 4
One thing I
minutes,
didn't do, though, that I need to do better next time is I got to plunge it multiple times. You know how when you press...
Yeah. I thought you're only supposed to do it like one time. Otherwise, it's going to mix the grounds with the water.
No, the plunger keeps the grounds from coming above it. But at least from the coffee I'm drinking right now, it has, like, when you get to the bottom of it, you can see grounds floating. Not like grounds, but like it almost looks like coffee dust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you get to the bottom, and I just feel like if I would have plunged it more, bam, 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 plunge, then I would have gotten a cleaner product. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did do it right.
One way to find out, you just got to do it.
Just got to do it again.
Just got to do it. Dude, I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, posting on our Instagram page for Thoughtify. And evidently, I had to say it because I know our conversations from the past, like regarding giant sharks, crocodiles, alligators, and how scary that would be. Evidently, there was a huge saltwater crocodile gliding through the Ord River in Western Australia. And I'm trying to pull up a video and do some research on it, but there's speculating.
We're guys. Like, one of the first things that come up on our podcast is alligators and sharks.
Yeah. But evidently, the individuals who spotted it were estimating the thing to be around 5.3 meters. So
that's like 16, 17 feet.
Something like that. 17 feet.
That's massive.
Imagine almost a 20-foot saltwater crocodile.
Well, it's crazy because you get so conditioned to hearing a 15-foot shark, a 14-foot shark, a 13-foot shark, or crocodile or alligator. You don't realize how big that is until you see that in person.
Yeah.
until you see like a colossal dinosaur coming through the water. And it's just like, what do you do? What could you do if that thing were to approach you in water? And the thing is, man, there's this video of this guy in Australia, and dude, I feel the emotion in this video because he's on one of those like he's on his knees on a paddleboard and he's going like this. And of course, they like walk up and they're like, "There's crocodiles in the water, mate." And I'm like, that was my best Australian accent. And
I thought you were
he's
Australian for a second.
and he's just like going back and forth with them, getting upset that they're telling him that there's crocodiles in the water. And they're like, I just imagine that. Just imagine being in that situation where there's multiple signs up and people are telling you there's crocodiles in the water, and you're like, leave me alone, I'll be fine. And I'm just like, man, I can't help but feel when you get snatched by that crocodile, how ironic you would then feel in terms of saying that you were fine. And there's
Yeah.
another video where these crocodile enthusiasts or conservationists are showing how aggressive crocodiles are, and they have have you seen this? It's a fake person in the canoe, and it's just like a straw person, and its hand is in the water, and a crocodile just comes up and just, bam, grabs the arm and the boat, and it's just like you can't even dangle anything in the water. Those things are vicious hunters.
Oh yeah. It's like that one story we were talking about on, a couple episodes ago, where what was it? The people, was it in the Congo, Africa, or the Amazon? But local villagers where they go to the river every single day, man eating crocs or gators and all that stuff, but just canoeing down that river, crocs coming up and snatching people out of canoes, like real life encounters. And so, like what you just said, putting a fake person in a boat or something like that and seeing if a gator would take it. It's absolutely true. And that is
Crocodile.
that is just crocodile. Just absolutely insane.
It
And like,
is.
man, I just looked up, because now I'm on the note of crocodiles. In 1955, there was a hunter who shot and killed an 8.6 meter saltwater crocodile.
I'm pretty sure it's
28
very
foot.
debated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it is, I mean, they have, yeah, if it's a doctored picture or whatnot. But back in 1955, it was Christina and Ron Pawlowski in Australia. Yeah. But supposedly that's one of the biggest man-eating saltwater crocodiles that's been found. 8.64 meters, almost 28 feet.
You realize 28 feet would be like prehistoric. That'd be size. I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but I am saying that I always want there to be like a 23-foot crocodile just so I could see. I would love to see how wide it is in terms of its body. That's like
Oh,
6 feet
dude.
across wide. It's insane.
Yeah.
And from what I can understand, the stories of anything bigger than like 20 feet are all very, very highly disputed. And there's not like good evidence to support it. There's circumstantial and then, pictures that they think are doctored and whatnot. But if
Yeah.
someone really, it supports, and I wouldn't even say this is a theory, this is just a general, assumptive observation. Think about, when we mess up anything in an ecosystem, so say one of the worst things we've ever done to any ecosystem is bring in a foreign species to try to balance something out. It's always gone wrong. That species runs rampant. It completely deletes another species, and then there's a new ecosystem where that thing is majoritively in charge or controlling the direction of the ecosystem. So we now live in an era where we're fishing to an insane extent, to where we're actually affecting world populations of different food sources. And that has a trickle down effect. If you affect this food source, it slightly affects that food source, which slightly affects that food source. And it's overall damaging to the ecosystem as a whole. And we've been doing it consistently for, I don't know how many years, probably 100
Long
years at
time.
this point. Just,
Long time.
destroying fishing populations. I hate that my camera does this. But think of even back in like the 1500s, when even our largest fishing efforts wouldn't have affected the population because we didn't have the technology to really overly affect food sources at that point. Think of some of the prehistoric monsters that had just gone unbothered, that had just been living for a couple hundred years because their ecosystem was perfect and they're from a different era, but they lasted longer because there's a larger food source and it was just peak ecosystem in terms of not being affected. And think of being in the 1500s, being on a boat and probably seeing like a 24-foot shark.
Yeah.
You know, just because those things back then were probably still around, you know, just or at least the
Mhm.
biggest version of a great white that could ever reach was definitely around back then. You know how like the biggest great white today is deep blue, that big female,
20 feet.
but
Yeah.
now you know, that would be a regular thing back then because the populations would be thriving so much. So
Yeah.
just think of the crocodiles that existed in the rivers before we really started affecting like different food sources and whatnot. And that, you
Yeah.
know, technically still exist in those places or potentially exist in places that are completely untouched. So,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah, man. I'd be curious. I mean, just looking at, again, the Amazon or looking at the Congo. Um, Relatively speaking, at least Amazon wise, we've hardly explored, we've hardly touched what's deep in the Amazon. So, let alone like all the structures that the jungle has just absolutely eaten over the last, honestly, hundreds and hundreds of years. But who's to say there's not a bunch of crazy like species deep within the jungle we haven't discovered? Same with the Congo. And I mean, just to piggyback off what you were saying, massive creatures that existed in the 14, 15, even 1600s. Did you hear about that Greenland shark that has evidently been around for 400 to 500 years? It's
Yeah,
like the
I have.
oldest living Greenland shark to date.
And I would definitely
And
say it looks like it because you would
oh
just
yeah,
from an animal perspective, you're just like, oh, it's going to be like still juking and jiving alive. And it's like, no, that thing looks like a 400-year-old shark. It's like barely moving. It
yeah,
goes like 2 miles per hour. And I'm just like, hey, maybe that's the secret to life. Long life is move as little as possible and exist in water.
yeah. Well, I think it's environment that it lives in because they first discovered it in the Arctic or the North Atlantic. So waters are very, very, very cold. So I wonder, cold, frigid cold waters versus, relatively warmer waters, if that is assisted in its ability to have gotten this old too. Because
Yeah.
it's almost like a cryo freeze, an active cryo freeze, but you're still moving.
Hmm.
you know,
Well, I
like
mean, when you think about
it's,
it, go on.
no, I was just going to say, it sounds like it's slowed the aging process of the shark because it's lived in colder waters.
Yeah, it all affects metabolism. And if your body burns energy at a really slow rate, which is what you're going to do in really cold water, then it would make sense that you could make that energy last a lot longer and be more efficient with it. But have you ever thought of what it would feel like to be, you know, how cold-blooded animals don't they don't feel cold the same way we do. That
Mm-hmm.
changes their actual body temperature, and their body temperature exists with the environment around it. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine that the colder they feel, they just feel less energy, and the warmer they feel, they just have more energy because their
Yeah.
body's burning calories at a faster rate, and it's just it would be a weird thought to be like, what would that feel like as a cold-blooded animal to be like, do they feel cold or do they feel warmth, or is it just a change in brain um, activity and metabolism?
Yeah. It would be interesting. I mean, just any reptile being naturally cold blooded.
Yeah.
Like a gator or a crocodile.
Hmm.
What's
And
their
it's
life
crazy.
like?
I mean, honestly, we could go to Louisiana and we could find a gator pretty quickly. We could actually find a gator
Yeah.
here in Texas without a doubt.
Dude, at Fort Worth, what is it, Eagle Mountain Lake?
Yeah.
I think it was Eagle Mountain Lake. They found a couple gators swimming in it.
Hmm.
Same with Grapevine Lake, all that fun stuff.
You know what would
Louisville.
be crazy? Because gators have to travel between lakes, obviously, and they travel on the land. Obviously, there's no other way. They don't drive cars. They can't fly.
Are you
So there
kidding me?
What did you just say? But
This is news to me.
I'm gonna go ask a gator.
I think you're a liar.
How do you know that?
You ever asked one in person? No, I didn't think so.
Don't you talk about gators without knowing what they do.
Don't you know not to make assumptions, Jimmy?
But
Digress.
imagine walking through, and I have to keep on doing this to my camera to make sure it focuses on me. But imagine you have such a better Scottish accent than I do. Mine actually used to not be bad when we did it on games all the time. But now that you barely play games with me, for instance, last night, I hit
Oddly
up
enough,
Chase.
I knew this was going to come up.
I hit up Chase and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" Blah 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 blah. We're talking in the middle of the day, as couples do, and I said, "Hey, do you want to get on a game later? We haven't been on some games in a while." And he's like, he gives me the answer that you always know it's a preemptive no. He goes, "Yeah, for sure, if I can." I'm like, "All right, just say no, just because you." Then I'm like, "Okay, when can you then?" I was like, "How about now? Let's get on now." And he's like, "Oh, I'm about to head over to the folks for a little bit." I'm like, "So you can't get on, is what you're saying?"
I was
like,
going to a chiropractor appointment.
And then you were going over to your folks, and then I hit you up at like 9:30, and I'm like, because he said he goes, "I'm going to hit you up whenever I'm done at my parents' house, and we'll see if you want to jump on." 9:30, I call him. He's like, "I'm going to bed." And I'm like, "Whatever happened to hitting up your best friend?" And anyways, I took this personally, as I always do, and he's
as one does. Yep.
A pretty mean person for that. But back to the original story or point I was making. What if you were in the middle of a place where there's no water and you came across a gator that was trying to find water? Because there has to be the Eagle Mountain Lake is not surrounded by a bunch of different lakes and whatnot. There had to be a gator that said, "I'm going the long run. I'm gonna find water," and he was just on a trek. And imagine going through a place where you're just like, it's the forest. There's no water around, and you just see a gator walking through the forest.
That'd be like gators starting in Florida and being like, "We got to go west. We got to go west like the pioneers." And then they made it to Bama, Louisiana, and then Texas. And instead of East Texas, they're like, "We've heard of a better place in Fort Worth. Let's keep going." And
I wonder
boom.
Which gator has traveled the farthest out of all gators. We should go start interviewing and see if any of them know.
We should do. Let's start a gator tagging business. Put trackers on them.
Pretty sure that exists.
See where
a lot.
I know. We'll start our own. Go fund us. Thoughtify Tagger Services.
Yeah.
Coming to tag a gator near you.
Speaking of funding us, might as well get it out in the open, talk about it. The Spotify store is live. You can now buy a podcast about anything and everything, but you can now buy hats, low T awareness shirts, all sorts of stuff. Coffee mugs, we've got a special limited edition hat for Independence Day coming up, and some shirts as well. I mean, honestly, it's pretty great. You guys should go check it out without a doubt.
Absolutely. In fact, should I share it? Dare I share it?
Yeah, please do. And without further ado, if you're listening to the podcast right now, obviously you're not going to be able to see this in real time, but that's why you need to become a video watcher, because we do video this for your entertainment, and your entertainment matters to us. So get that extra level of intimacy with Thoughtify Podcast by watching the video.
Whoa, nice. That was really well done. That was really well done. All right, here it is. Can y'all see that, boy?
Buddy, look at that. Look at that beautiful logo that we paid for.
Totally. So
we did pay for it.
It is
paid good money for that.
It is just do Thoughtify, and then type in fourth wall, or as you can see if you are actually watching the video, look at the link, Fun fact, the link is also available on our social media. Our Instagram, you can hop in, check that out. We'll take you right to the cool little store. All kinds of stuff, ways to keep in touch with us, what's going on via Instagram, latest on YouTube, all the different links to the platforms that we're on. And then what everyone is here for is the shop. So naturally, we had to do some fun stuff for Independence Day coming up. Sorry for all of our listeners that don't live in the United States, but we had to do some America stuff. So,
And
we got
honestly,
some,
guys, these prices are great at the moment. Like these are compared to other shirts that you can buy anywhere on the internet, these are actually really good prices. And we really want them to be as good as possible to get the products out there. So I'd say the best and biggest way you could support this podcast is by buying one of these products. And we would love that.
yes, man, I'm honestly like a huge fan of this shirt too. We did a classic throwback vintage color. Just on this Independence Day themed shirt. So
And it
for those
has,
that aren't
yeah.
looking, all of our Independence Day stuff is around freedom thoughts. And thought that was a pretty cool theme to go with Thoughtify. We got stuff for adults, we got stuff for kids, we got hats, and as Keegan referenced, low T awareness, because we're building awareness.
We're doing
for
our
those that
part.
struggle with low T. We are doing our part. And for
Now-
those that have stuck with us long enough, I will say the whole low T thing is an inside joke. So you'll have to
Yes.
go back to some earlier episodes to really understand where the low T aspect comes into play. But
Well,
for those that know what it is, this is for you.
now I'm going to tell them because I want everyone
it.
to be a part of it, and it's a funny thing, but at the same time, we have 31 episodes now, so it would be hard to go back and spot. I couldn't even tell you exactly which episode it was, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit embarrassed by some of our first episodes versus what it is now. So please watch the latest and greatest. Don't feel the need to start with episode 1. But it would be cool to watch the evolution.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
it's cool to watch the evolution of how this podcast has gotten a lot better. But so a couple of years ago, I was sitting on the porch with my God family, being Chase's family, and we were out by the pool. We had just eaten. We were talking, just shooting the breeze. And Chase's mom is a very matter-of-fact person, and I don't think she meant this when she said it, but I had made the comment that, hey, like they were talking about mosquitoes. And then I had made the comment, like, I haven't gotten bit at all this year. This is a great year. And they're all talking about getting all bit up and whatnot. And then Chase's mom said, I read an article recently that mosquitoes are attracted to people with higher testosterone. So without saying it, inadvertently insinuating that I have low testosterone at the table, and everyone just kind of starts laughing at me. And then I started trying to argue as to why mosquitoes were probably not biting me, and it didn't have to do with that. And then it just became a low T joke. For the first few episodes, if you weren't there, that would be brought up a lot, my low T. I don't believe I have low T. I haven't gotten it tested, but I got a lot of hair on my body, so I'm pretty sure that's a good indicator that I don't. But we then created a shirt to support this theme that says low T. It's a low T-shirt, which I think is one of the greatest things ever. Get it? Low T-shirt. And on the back, it has low T awareness with a mosquito in the middle. And on the front, it has our logo. So we're fighting for the cause, for the people out there that do have low T and that that need someone to speak up about it. And I will be the poster boy for that, for low T awareness. So if you want to be part of a good movement for men and women, I don't know, do women have low T? Maybe we don't know that yet. But
inherently they do have low T because they run on estrogen.
We gotta raise awareness about that. Let's get more testosterone.
Still raise awareness. Yep.
Still raise awareness.
And so just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't wear a low T-shirt awareness shirt.
Yes. So I don't have low T from what I can understand. According to everyone around me, I have low T, and according to the mosquitoes that I'm still not bit very often by. And I got a couple, and the worst part is like now, even though I'm pretty sure this is completely not true, I get bit by a mosquito and I'm like, huh, awesome. Now
I've got relatively normal teeth.
I'm still judging myself based off of that standard, and I don't even know if it's a real thing. I'm pretty sure I looked it up. I don't think it's a real thing, but for the fact that it might be we're spreading low T awareness. And mosquitoes are a great indicator of that. So the shirt is legitimately only $35. And if you're trying to help people out there and actually make a difference,
Yes.
spread awareness about low T, because it could happen to anyone.
And we're here to solve it.
We're here to solve it. You know what I think is funny about movements that spread awareness?
What's that?
I just don't understand necessarily what that does, because it's like, let's say you're like spreading awareness for a certain disease, and they're like, you walk up to someone and you're like, hey, do you realize that a lot of people die from this disease? And they're like, oh, I wasn't aware of that, but now I am. You're like, oh, my job is done.
Yes.
I just made a difference. And I just, spreading awareness just doesn't necessarily translate to doing anything about it, but it gives everyone like a really big excuse to be a part of a movement.
That's why whenever you see people that are protesting, not to go off on this little tangent, but we kind of have to now. Whenever you see people protesting on the corner with like little homemade signs, like I a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half ago, I was driving into South Lake, and on the corner of like Main South Lake, right off of Carroll, these there are like 3 people with signs and 1 person recording them. And one of these girls, of course, they were protesting Trump. And this girl had a neon orange sign with the caption, "Impeach the Orange." I'm like, you are just such a hero. Look at you. Totally, they're right. You know, not knocking them for protesting. It's their God-given right to be able to do so. But I'm just like, realistically, what are you doing to advance anything? Like, you have 2 other people with you. No one is honking as they drive by. I'm like, what type of movement are we creating right now?
Well, I was in Madison, Wisconsin last weekend for a wedding, my first time in Wisconsin. And Madison, Wisconsin is a great little town, beautiful, would definitely go back, super cool little place, extremely not conservative versus a place like Texas. Like every bathroom has gender neutral on it, and I was genuinely confused on what I can and can't use, because
that's a perfect place to go because you're low T. Because
exactly.
you can get confused, I've heard.
I'm kind of like on like the zombie movies where they like put zombie like parts all over them. Like my low T allows me to blend in Madison, Wisconsin, and they're just like, huh, he's one of us.
He's one of us.
This is a mosquito free town. We haven't had a mosquito here for 100 years.
Welcome, friend.
Yes, I just glide right by the guards and whatnot. But in regards to being in Madison, what was I going to say? Is in Madison, Wisconsin, very liberal. Yeah, so the protesters. So there's just like everyone in Madison, Wisconsin already supports everyone else in Madison, Wisconsin. There's no like real controversy in terms of people like getting after, like there's not very many conservative people in Madison, Wisconsin. So it was really funny. We were sitting outside of a bar, and there's like these, let's just say one thing you'll also see in Madison, Wisconsin is there's usually not a gym membership in sight. You know, usually
what are you trying to say?
they have the opportunity to be really active, and a lot of people are, but in terms of just if you're not a college kid that's like very active and, you know, just being a college kid, the gym, you know, the gyms don't make a lot of money there. But there's these people walking down the street with these like political signs, but they were just like these, I don't know what they were doing. I guess they were on break, and they were just like on their back, just like walking slow and normally. And I'm just like, is this like, who are you protesting against? Like, who is like they have no one to be in conflict with. So they're just like, we're just going to have them if we need them in case someone like, oh, Trump is horrible. And it's just like it's almost like they're just walking around with these signs to like just virtue signal to other people that if there's something to protest, I'm willing to protest. But like, it's almost insinuating that as if you walked into everyone's house, they would have like signs pre-built and ready. And these people were just out in case something were to happen. And I was like, man, look at y'all making an impact on what you believe by walking through a town that already believes exactly what you believe with signs disputing what you don't believe to people who don't care because they believe what you believe. It is
Yep.
just it's like it's equivalent to like a penguin in a zoo going through the water with a sign that says "Look out for orcas," even though there's no orcas in the water. Like there's not even the possibility of there being orcas in the water. And it's like
Yep.
ban orcas, and it's just like, well, you're already in the safest place in the world, so
Pretty much.
doth not
But you're
worry.
doing your part.
You're doing your part. You're making an impact, and you can sleep
Yes.
soundly tonight.
Yes. But kind of back on point, scrolling through the rest of this, got a lot of just really
Back
cool
to the
stuff
store.
for you. Yes. Because I wrap this little conversation or segment up. But all kinds of cool stuff, really cool hats, sweatshirts, coffee cups, all the things that will tickle your fancies. So yeah, definitely go check it out. We're excited about it. And we hope you are too. If you're not,
We
don't
hope
tell us.
you are too.
If you're not excited, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, just don't talk about it. No one needs to bring that up.
Not at all. But yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Big next steps being taken. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
You know, one thing that I do sometimes before we get on the podcast is, gosh dang, my camera. And refocus. One thing I do before we get on the podcast sometimes is I look up like, hey, here's some thought-provoking stuff, you know, things that are fun to talk through. And if you had to fake your own death, how would you do it?
Man, I would somehow do it on a cage diving trip because everyone knows that I love sharks and I really want to go cage dive. So I would somehow formulate cage diving gone wrong and disappear that way. That there was a shark or the latch, the door on the cage wasn't fully latched and somehow a shark got in. Because there have been videos where sharks have gotten in the cage with people and they've been okay, but the shark has died because they get stuck. But I would probably fake it that way. Cage diving with great white sharks.
Man, as you're saying that, I'm thinking like that would be a big deal. Like people would that would be a big story if someone died cage diving with sharks. But like, do you want a lot of attention on the story or do you want no attention on the story? Do you want there to just be a record of your death or do you want it to be like a big deal so like everyone knows that you died? And like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of like, would it be better if a lot of people like looked it up and then they're like, oh, someone died cage diving? So that way there's like multiple sources confirming your death. Or would it be better to die indiscreetly and then just kind of fade into oblivion?
Oh, that's tough. I feel like there are definitely upsides to both.
Yeah.
Because you could have credibility emphasizing, okay, this might actually be legit versus the more people that see it means more opportunity for maybe those people to see you in person if you pop up.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that if I were to fake my own death, I would first spend 6 months to a year becoming untraceable. I would pay for everything in cash. I would have no credit lines attached to myself. And I'd really start trying to break away from the natural tracking that we're all involved in regards of spending money, a GPS location. I would get rid of my iPhone. I would buy a burner phone that I would use. And then I guess you would have to understand how to take someone's identity, which is actually, from what I've heard, getting someone else's identity is very easy.
Yeah, I'm proof.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, Chase had his identity stolen just as the same time I found out I had low T. But
it's true. We're in this together, just in different boats.
Yes, different boats, same lake, but
rowing in the same direction.
In the same direction. But I would think that you would have to know how to get someone else's identity, and once you did that, where would you go? And how would I fake my own death? What would I do that's like it would have to be something where my body was not recoverable.
Gators.
But I mean, how would I have that confirmed? That's the other thing is like you need a confirmation of death, and you also need it to be where you can't be identified. And that way there's never going to be a body that, I mean, what if you, I mean, I'm thinking some type of industrial accident, like what if you fell into a vat of hydrochloric acid or something?
And then you
But
got
that would be,
superpowers.
yeah, the guy came out with superpowers, and you're like, well, this went the wrong way. Wasn't expecting that. But I think that's like gamma radiation, not hydrochloric acid. But if anyone I'm not going to encourage that. Don't jump into hydrochloric acid thinking you're going to get superpowers. We don't support that. That's not a Thoughtify thought.
No.
We should make a segment called Thoughtify Thoughts.
T-shirt.
Thoughtify Thoughts. Jeez.
Thoughtify Thoughts. That would be a good segment. We'll start doing that.
We should start doing that. But I guess if I had to do it, maybe I know it. Hiking. I would get lost hiking. Because that is so many people go missing hiking every single year, and it's just near impossible to find them because it's like searching for a needle in a haystack. And just think of that. Think of being a person going hiking, not knowing that you're going to be one of those people.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Because you always go out, thinking just in any normal circumstance, like on a day-to-day basis, like knowing
no one
it happens
wakes up
to other
thinking
people,
they're going to die.
Yeah. Being like, no, that won't happen to me.
Yeah. Like you just go drive your car, have no idea that today's the day. But that's dark. I don't want to talk about that.
That is a little bit dark.
So let's say you faked your death successfully, shark cage diving, me hiking, where would you go?
As we're saying this on a recorded episode, so whenever anyone hears this, they'll know exactly
Just
where we're at.
Theoretically. I mean,
theoretically speaking.
I mean, you're never going to have to fake your own death. So I feel like we're giving away our plan.
Right? For the 4 people that listen to us, they will know where we're at.
we're gonna come up dead, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know where he's at.
We know.
Go to Thailand." Just kidding.
Well, to be fair, the nine different countries that we've hit the market in, we're in 9 different countries, so we have a wider footprint than we're giving ourselves credit for.
Go there with a little bit of a recognition.
I would say, I mean, I feel like Alaska would just be too cliche, like, cause it's just like, oh, Alaska's so vast and it's, large portion of it's uninhabited and it's the final frontier or just the last frontier. And I don't know. I feel like that would be one of the first spots that people would naturally resort to be like, he probably went to Alaska. I would probably, I don't know if it'd be any better, but hold on. Here's the thing. How would you even get to this place in the first place? Like, if you're getting rid of your identity after you disappear,
that's what you would have to. You would have to get another identity.
Yeah. Well, then in that case, if you could charter a ship or pay someone via cash to get somewhere without having to go through airlines, flying, different things like that, maybe Australia, Singapore.
Australia, no, because Australia is insanely hard to get into. Like you can't, like I've heard even like people who are really contributing and doing it right, it's very hard to gain citizenship and very scrutinizing. Like they don't let almost anyone in, and they're very, for someone who really gets after us for our immigration policies, they are like hard nosed. They track how long you've been there. They make sure you leave if you overstay your visa. They are very big on controlling immigration.
Yeah. Well, unless you somehow got into the country illegally and you just disappeared in a remote part of the country, and somehow managed to build a somewhat structure just over time. Or, I don't know. See, part of me thinks, though, too, somehow staying stateside, but just disappearing stateside. rather than leaving the country.
I just asked ChatGPT, and of course, like before it gives me the answer, it's like faking your own death and disappearing is illegal in most countries and can land you in serious legal trouble. But hypothetically, if we're just talking about which countries are hard to track people down in, maybe for a novel, movie, or podcast scenario, here are top contenders based on loose regulations, remote geography, and limited extradition treaties. Vanuatu. No one even knows what that is. Hold on.
Dude, that was the one island. Remember when we were doom scrolling on that shark
Yeah,
tracker app?
I didn't
That was
realize that.
Vanuatu. That was one of those Pacific islands or whatever.
Yep, it's a remote island in the South Pacific, low surveillance, relatively lax entry policies. Expats can blend into isolated beach towns or remote villages. Okay. Morocco, wouldn't have thought that one.
I wouldn't want to go to Morocco.
Popular with expats and backpackers, dense medinas and large rural regions make anonymity easier. Moderate corruption can help you stay under the radar, not legally advised, but realistic. Extradition exists with many countries, but not always enforced. Indonesia, certain islands. Bolivia, loopholes in immigration and identification processes. No extradition treaty with several Western countries, including France and Japan. Georgia, where Atlanta,
Eastern
Georgia.
Europe.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's where I got my identity stolen, so that would make sense.
Right? You can stay up to a year without a visa. Mountains, villages, limited digital tracking. Criminal networks often pass through here. Not recommended, but explains the appeal for ghosts. Madagascar.
Interesting.
Russia, if you're bold, no extradition to the U.S. and many Western countries. You'd have to fully integrate or be supported hard without connections. Rural Siberia. I think that I would just take whatever punishment that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, that just sounds horrible.
Going to Russia. Namibia, vast desert, sparse population, emerging as digital nomad destination, but you could easily vantage into the countryside. Very little surveillance. So
I would want to stay away from desert areas, honestly. That just sounds horrible.
I mean, the first one, Vanuatu and Indonesia are the ones that I would probably go for. But places to avoid if you were hypothetically doing this: Europe, too integrated, too much surveillance. Australia, New Zealand, small populations, very strict immigration. Dubai, UAE, surveillance state, no patience for anything shady. Singapore, you'll be found within a week.
Jeez, okay, well, I'll take that one back.
Right? Was Singapore one of your ones?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, man, Singapore is like, that's the place that if you get caught spitting gum on the sidewalk, you can get like 7 years in prison.
Yeah. Yeah,
If
we'll stay away from
THC in your blood on the way to Singapore, you can get in trouble.
That's crazy. So no Singapore. No Singapore.
No Singapore. I'm scared to go to Singapore as a tourist. I will probably, and yeah, like I've got hundreds of countries lined up to go visit. It's not in any of my near future, but if it ever was, if Singapore was on the list, I would be very hesitant to go to Singapore. Because I mean, look at what happened to Vitaly.
Yeah, dude. Whatever happened to that situation, in jail, by the way? Is he really?
He's in jail in Indonesia. And apparently, like, he has... Let me look up real quick, because apparently it's bad. Like, he's like, they really are like, oh, because this is what made me believe. And Vitaly's a streamer that went over to Indonesia and was doing a bunch of dumb pranks and really offended the population, annoyed the crap out of people, harassed them, and ends up getting arrested by the Indonesian government, who they're old school, like, torture. They don't play. Like, they will, what happens in an Indonesian or esque prison, there's no regulations there, and there's no one coming to save you. Going through the process, he was still making jokes. Going through the actual legal process, he was legitimately still like making like faces at the camera and like, you know, just kind of like, you know, being goofy about like his picture was like his mugshot was like, you know, something stupid. And I'm just like, dude, I don't think he realized what situation he was actually in until like he actually got there because let me see. He's facing 3 counts of unjust vexation, plus charges of alarm and scandal and theft, all stemming from prank live streams in April in Bonifacio Global City. Sentence exposure up to 18 months if convicted on vexation charges. Some reports suggest he could face up to 24 years, citing broader counts including harassment, theft, and vandalism.
Whoa.
Recent photos show noticeable weight loss and concern from fans. I mean, yeah, like, come on, man. Describing him as looking like a completely different person. He's now in a higher security prison, according to Instagram posts, moved from the initial immigration detention center. Yeah, I mean, apparently it's like he's been in some pretty rough conditions. And, you know, both the US and Russia, where he's originally from, have said, we're not helping you. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's just got to be a certain point where you have to realize that. Surely you would realize that. Like, of course, extenuating circumstances, your home countries would be like, okay, if it's total bullcrap, you know, that you were arrested and they're just harassing you, we'll help. But if you go over there doing stuff like that, surely you would understand. There's a
Who's
line that
Shirley?
has to be drawn. I don't know, but don't call them that.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like I don't get the mindset that you're going to go somewhere else where, because that's a scary thought, is that like when you go to a certain area of the country or area of the world, you're outside you're at the whims of them and their culture and what they think is right and how they handle situations. And that can be very, like, there's no law or no US protection force that's going to come save you. And the idea that you would do that, even if it's a joke, and risk just being at the whims of someone else, you know, who doesn't look like or act like you, that's wild. I mean, that's wild. That's stupid. That's stupidity on a different level.
Oh, for sure. Especially, cultural differences, you know, European, American, whatever. But when you go to a country or an Indonesian country or an Asian country, there are stark differences between what you're normally used to versus what they're used to.
Oh, yeah.
And like for you to just not understand that or to know that and still go do it, I'm just like, you brought that on yourself.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. There's no getting around that part. And it's just like the idea that, I guess maybe his mindset is like, this is already as bad as it can get. Maybe if I do end up getting out of this, I'll end up making a bunch of money by being able to be like, see, even then I wasn't even phased, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
24 years later.
Yeah. But I mean, man, prison potentials 3 to 18 months, additional penalties, no deportation options. Neither Russia nor the US will accept him. Significant weight loss. Photo reports show stress.
You think?
What is the update on his sentence? Man, he's probably being beat up too. Like, his trial on the unjust vexation charges is expected to begin immediately, possibly this week soon. His pre-trial detention now lodged in maximum security facility. The bail status denied June 17th. Dang.
Jeez. Yeah, he's going to be in there for a while.
BJMP maximum security. Muntinlupa. I don't even know where that is, and that's scary. 18 months. Total potential sentence, 18 months currently, 24 years of other charges added later. Trial staff starting.
Golly. Oh,
Progress of trial. When does it officially start? What evidence was presented? Man, that's crazy.
wasn't worth it.
No,
Wasn't
not
worth
even
it
a
at
little
all.
bit, man.
Gosh.
Not even a little bit.
Well, there's I'm debating. Do we bring up some other interesting things, or shall we save it for next episode and keep the audience on a hook?
What are the other interesting things?
But if I say it, then they'll know. Things we discussed before hopping on here regarding archaeological discoveries or openings, regarding other planets, and regarding the most protected place on Earth.
Well, I will say that we can say the topics and say what we'll be covering next time to create some incentive to watch our next episode, because as you can tell, our topics are free flowing and fun, and we like to have a good time with them. And we hope that you guys enjoy that. So
Yes.
it's going to be even more free flowing and fun on the next episode. And that will entail talk about it.
So for next episode, we will be talking about why Antarctica is the most protected land on Earth due to a lot of different speculation. So we'll be diving into that. The Dyatlov Pass incident, which is a pretty wild encounter that happened back in 1959 in the Ural Mountains, regarding some Soviet ski hikers that pretty much disappeared. I think 9 of them went out and all of them died in various forms of trauma. And there's been a lot of speculation whether they were involved in an avalanche, a military accident or a military incident gone wrong, or if UAPs or UFOs were involved. And also possible remains of Noah's Ark. It's kind of been on the radar of a lot of different people for a good bit of time now. I guess back in 1977 was when it was first published. But there's evidently been some new happenings that have occurred where investigations are adding to more claims that we have indeed found Noah's Ark. So we'll be diving into that as well.
Yeah, so Antarctica, aliens, people dying in the mountains, Noah's Ark. Got some really cool stuff coming up. So y'all tune in for the next episode. Been really great with you on this Saturday. If you're listening to this on any day, I wish you a good day, and I hope you get to Saturday very quickly. So love you guys. Appreciate everyone listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.